Welcome to the Speak with People podcast, where we believe that healthy communication is the key to unlocking your leadership potential. We are the go-to resource for leaders looking to greatly improve their communication skills, whether it's one-on-one interactions, team settings, public speaking, or digital communication. By improving these skills, leaders can create stronger connections and drive positive change within their organizations. Each and every episode, we sit down with experts from various fields from around the world, just like you're grabbing a coffee with them, to dive into real, practical conversations. Our goal is to help you transform your communication skills so you can lead more effectively, build stronger relationships, and make a lasting impact. So go grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's learn together. Well, let me ask you a question. Have you ever dealt with this powerful force called imposter syndrome? Maybe you're like me. Maybe you are a leader who communicates with a lot of potential clients, with clients, and there's sometimes just this voice that nags you, this inner thought that tells you they're not going to sign, they're not going to go with you, and it prevents you from moving forward sometimes in your day-to-day business. And no matter how hard you try, for whatever reason, that noise just doesn't stop, and it prevents you from creating real connections and moving your business forward, moving your sales forward. Well, today on the Speak with People podcast, I am so excited for this conversation. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. We're going to tackle that question head on, and we're going to talk to an expert who's going to teach us how to debunk imposter syndrome. And I can't wait. I'm joined by Markus Neukom, a leader who believes that stillness, not hustle, not performance, not more noise, is the key to reclaiming your voice and leading with true resonance. And we're going to walk through how to debunk imposter syndrome. Markus, I am so honored to have you on the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Jason.
Well, hey, before we hop into this conversation, maybe give us the 30,000 foot view of your story, who you are, what you do, how you got to this place of helping leaders walk through this.
It literally gives me goosebumps because I just remember the moment when it hit me.
Mm.
So if I had introduced myself to somebody before that moment, it would have been, I'm a seasoned executive coach with probably several hundreds of coachings under my belt, and a business consultant specialized in retention, reducing turnover, and basically team development and all that stuff. So you remember the day when COVID hit, right?
Yep.
Everyone around me went into depression, literally everyone around me. And I actually held up the fort for quite some time. And then I remember that one day when it hit me, I spoke with a client much, much later, and I suddenly realized, gosh, I actually went into a depression. Not for the first time in my life. It wasn't the first time, but it hit me like never before. So picture me, the seasoned executive coach, business consultant, I would say admired by quite a few for what I would stand for, sitting on my terrace in my swing chair was a huge one. And I typed a question into ChatGPT. Should I actually even coach anymore? Because I felt so low. You know those moments when you ask yourself, what actually makes me the person teach other people when you are at that point where you actually question your own existence?
Wow.
That was tough, I tell you. That was tough. So what I did, I added a second question. The second question was, I was quite an avid poster on LinkedIn at that time. So, my follow-up question was, should I even continue posting? And if, on what? So ChatGPT gave me 10 topics. Number 7, Jason, hit me like a flash from heaven. Imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome. And I thought, okay, let's do some research because, I was quite blessed that I didn't really suffer so much from imposter syndrome because I always had people who believed in me.
Yeah.
So I kind of borrowed their belief. So it didn't really matter what I thought of myself. But at that moment, I sat there on my own and I questioned literally everything.
Wow.
So I started posting and I received some really interesting feedback until one day, two of my male friends reached out to me and said, Markus, congrats on your courage to actually come out there like this. However, we do very much resonate with the symptoms, but we do not resonate with the cause you mentioned.
Mm.
So they did not identify with imposter syndrome, how it's, in society and in lecture and in literature, but they resonated with the symptoms of it. So then I thought, okay, let's think. So I went back to my study, which was my swing chair, and I asked the question, me a picture. Let's look at it like this. Here is space, and here is the atmosphere, and here's this thin membrane, right? The thin membrane. And here somewhere is the sun. I know, especially it doesn't really work, but let's for the case reason, here's the sun. So what actually happens is people have their little spaceships. So when they go for a new client, for example, or when they go after a new project, they hop into their little spaceship and go up and up and up and up. And suddenly they come close to the sun. Guess what happens? They turn around and go down on the base again. The next time they go up again. But guess what? They never go up high as they did before. So every single time when they go up, it's less high, it's less high, it's less high. And suddenly they call it, oh, Jason, it's as good as it gets. You
Mm.
heard that term, right?
Oh
It's as
yeah.
good as it gets.
Yep.
I can't break that ceiling. I can't get higher than that number in terms of revenue. My profit can't exceed X amount of percentage, for example. That's the as good as it gets. And then I thought, gosh, okay, so this sounds familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And it suddenly dawned on me that probably around 75% of my clients suffered from what the world calls imposter syndrome. And we never named it. We never labeled it. We just went through it. Because I suddenly realized when I heard a voice, Marcus, teach the world. Imposter syndrome is actually something incredible positive. It shouldn't be fought.
Wow.
It shouldn't be battled. It shouldn't be feared. Because in all honesty, and I shortened the whole story now. In all honesty, it is a compliment by life that you are doing something damn worthwhile.
Wow.
Think about that message. Imposter syndrome basically means, Jason, you are getting so close to the sun.
Mm.
Don't fear it. It is something that goes outside of your comfort zone. But believe me, Jason, the sun won't burn you. It will actually burn away so much BS in your regards to beliefs, for example, right?
Yep.
Limiting beliefs. All you need to do, if you want to, close your eyes, cross your fingers, but just stay in that little spaceship and just let it take you past the sun, through that membrane, and in space, you suddenly realize, gosh, limitless,
Mm.
limitless. And I could tell you, when I understood that, that's when I knew one of my missions, I'm 53 years old, and it's probably the second half of my life, that I am going to debunk imposter syndrome.
Wow.
Because I spoke with one of my mentors, David Meltzer. And David, on one of the coaching calls, he once said, Marcus, you actually hit the number one reason why people fail imposter syndrome. He said it is more prevalent than mummy issues. It's not money with an N, it's mummy issues. And I thought, wow. Because he then showed me, gosh, there is literally no area in your life, there is no area in your business where imposter syndrome is not detrimental.
Mm.
Not one area. Somebody could say to me, what about, I'm a father or I'm a mother with my kids? Yeah, guess what? You are a role model for that kid. And if that kid sees your limiting beliefs and how you deal with life, how you deal with challenges, that you basically crave and say, you know what, it's as good as it gets.
Yep.
Mommy and daddy can't reach more. Guess what happens with this little child? That's exactly it.
Wow.
In sales, what is the problem? In sales, you don't get feedback.
Yeah.
So you're relying on yourself. So now imagine if you suffer from imposter syndrome, sometimes I'm quite straightforward, so am I here right now. If you actually buy into the concept, Jason, you are absolutely screwed
Mm.
because there is no healing, there is no remedy, and there is no solution for imposter syndrome. Once you bought into it, you are literally cooked. Like I can't say it more straightforward without getting too crass, but that's exactly what it is.
Yep.
Once you buy into the concept, you're cooked, literally.
Wow.
So now you see, I'm definitely on a mission. I realized that being an executive coach, being a business consultant, a friend of mine yesterday said, that is fun for Marcus. But the real thing is going under the hood. If I be a mechanic, it's not when you come in and say, can you service my car? That's not what I'm interested in.
Right.
I want to tune it. I want to remove all the parts that apparently, reduce the energy, reduce the output. I want to tune that hood, everything that is under the hood, the motor, the engine. I
Yes.
want to tune that so it comes up into maximum capacity. So this is literally what I'm doing day in, day out.
I I love this. Wow, this is so powerful. What it kind of gets me thinking, are there a subset of leaders who miss the imposter syndrome exit for whatever reason? They don't struggle with it, or is this something that the majority of us we're going to struggle with?
The most beautiful question. And you'll be thrilled about the answer because people often mention CEOs. They have the opposite of imposter syndrome, correct?
Mm,
No, they don't. It just masks itself differently.
wow.
It masks itself with arrogance. It masks itself with thinking too high about yourself. The thrill seekers. So imposter syndrome. And you see, what is really interesting, it is not against C-suite at all. I was coaching C-suite and I was in C-suite myself. So I really know what I'm talking about. The thing is, the higher up, and that will be something for you to be surprising as well as for your listeners and viewers. The higher up in the hierarchy you go, the more prevalent imposter syndrome becomes.
Mm,
So I repeat that the higher up in the hierarchy you go, the more prevalent imposter syndrome becomes. And it's very clear. It's two reasons. The first one is you are doing things which have never been done, right? The second one is you lack feedback.
mm,
And then there is a third one, which is very dangerous. Because when I realized, Jason, that imposter syndrome is actually the term itself is deadly. If you talk to one of your medical doctors or psychiatrists in your Rolodex, they will tell you when they don't know anymore how to call it, they take several symptoms together and call it a syndrome. So if I
wow.
diagnose someone with imposter syndrome, that's why they're screwed. They don't have a diagnosis. They just have a label.
Yeah.
And they go into the internet and check out what is it. Do you know what Merriam-Webster tells you when you look it up? I don't think anyone looks up Merriam-Webster. They go into Google and see
Yes.
all these crazy posts about imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Merriam-Webster says something really beautiful. It hit me. Despite of knowing you have what it takes, you still doubt yourself.
Wow.
Let me repeat that. Despite of knowing you have what it takes, you still doubt yourself. So why is that? Think
Wow.
about that. You have evidence. Like when I work with my clients, I tell them, gosh, let's go back maybe just a couple of years and look at where we find a success. And they smile and say, Marcus, we can actually go back a week. And I said, why is it that you still doubt yourself despite of all the successes you have under your belt?
Mm.
What do you think the answer is?
Many leaders struggle with short-term memory loss. We forget, so easily some of those successes. You know, uh, it's
You asked
interesting.
me a very interesting question in the beginning when I said about imposter syndrome. You asked me, does that still relate to stillness?
Mm,
What is the opposite of stillness?
yeah,
It's noise. It's
yeah.
noise. It's busyness. So imagine, in order to reflect, in order to look at something, you have to stop. You have to take a hold. So what happens is, I talked and worked with so many sales managers. Like the higher up, the more fascinating for me, by the way. And I'm sure you second that because, they cannot hide behind anything anymore. It's, like naked numbers. Either you make the numbers or you don't, literally. So what is so interesting when I ask them, what was it that actually led to your successes? Blank stare,
Mm,
blank stare. They don't know.
wow,
They don't know.
wow.
So now imagine I was sitting there. I just ended the second call with one of those gentlemen, and I asked myself, what if imposter syndrome is actually a symptom of something much worse
Mm,
than when I had the answer? The answer was, it is an authenticity struggle.
oh,
And like if I would give a lecture, I would use authenticity struggle. But here I am just straightforward. It literally means you have no bloody clue who you are. You have no bloody clue what brought you here. You have no bloody clue what actually constitutes Jason, what constitutes Marcus, what constitutes Susie, whoever is on a call. And this is the number one requirement I have for my clients before I even start working with them, that they at least give in to the chance to say, it doesn't matter how old I am. It doesn't matter how seasoned I am. I play with the thought that I have no bloody clue who I am,
mm,
and that everything I have thought to be could actually be an illusion.
wow.
And then when people say, okay, let's start, I say, yeah, look, just close your eyes for a moment and just breathe.
Mm.
And I can tell the stress on the other side because now they want exercises, right? Now they want, all these challenges. And I said, look, the biggest challenge is stillness.
Mm,
And stillness, by the way, is not absence of action. Stillness is coherence between thought and heart. So when you go into calmness, you probably can tell it is just the two of us. It doesn't matter how many 100,000 people would follow us to this life, right? It's
yeah.
just the two of us. And this is what stillness does. It is almost like taking a little glass couple over us, and all the problems, all the challenges, all the goals, all the targets to reach are all outside. And it's just the two of us. And that's what stillness is. So what you experience right now with me is stillness. Can you tell? There are your thoughts, is your heart, And then you suddenly realize it opens a channel. And then you suddenly hear whispers. That's your soul talking to you.
Wow.
So imagine sometimes my clients, for the first time in their lives, they hear their soul talk because they shut up.
Wow.
Literally, they shut up.
Yeah.
So you see, it is beautiful to know imposter syndrome is not the problem. It's a symptom. It's an authenticity struggle. And the authenticity struggle means nothing else than I have no bloody clue who I am and what actually brought me here where I am. Because otherwise, if I would know who I am, if I would know what brought me here, guess what? Definitely no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am sure if I would talk to your wife, right? Does she love baking cakes?
Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
Okay, okay. So once she baked a cake, to replicate that is not that easy. But once she baked it several times, and she baked probably like 50 or 60 different cakes in her whole life, she can now take all the different ingredients and start mixing them together absolutely wildly, and something beautiful will turn out. So I definitely don't want to leave your viewers without a key.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing with imposter syndrome. So here's what I do with my clients. I tell them, describe me 2 or 3 of your successes. It don't have to be huge successes. Let's say if somebody's in sales, describe to me a situation where you landed a key account, for example, right? Or where despite of all your fears, you were successful in that conversation. Like day-to-day stuff. And what we're doing then is we literally dissect this one success, we dissect the other success, and we dissect the other success so they actually understand there was a path to the result. We just never took time to reflect on it.
Mm.
So now think about that. So suddenly you understand what the ingredients for your success are.
Yeah.
You see the successes, and the one thing which I have to literally teach people, actually myself as well, is how to celebrate your successes.
Right.
Because if you're in sales, you just rush from new rush to new rush to new rush, and you never take the time to actually take success in. So it has to become a visceral thing. So somebody has to understand, you know what? I am actually damn successful. I
Yeah.
am. And once they understand that, to look into what led to my successes. So let me give you a parallel example, which might sound crazy for some people. So picture this. A week ago, I went to a bar, had a few too many, and I met somebody who had a few too many as well. And this person introduced himself as a mountain guide who is able to bring me up to the base camp of Mount Everest. So I thought, let's reach out to my dear friend Jason and invite him along that journey. And when you heard that I had some too many, and the other guy had some too many as well, you would probably say, Marcus, as much as I like you, thanks, but no thanks, right? So picture this. Yesterday, I went on a walk, and in the forest, I crossed paths with somebody who seemed very serene. And I spoke with that person. And that person introduced himself as a mountaineer who has been up to the Mount Everest several times. And he extended the same offer. Now you would at least think about it if you had a dream to go up to the base camp, right?
Mhm.
So now the thing comes, I show it a parallel. Why the heck would you trust someone who you do not know to bring you up to new heights? And guess who that one is? yourself.
Mm.
Yourself.
Yep.
So you are
Yep.
coming up here, remember the membrane, the sun,
Yep.
your little spaceship, you're coming up here. Why would you go higher than your comfort zone if you don't trust the pilot? You wouldn't.
Yeah.
You wouldn't. Nobody with a sound mind would do that.
Yeah.
That's why the thing comes into play. This is as good as it gets. You know, goodness me, I even had those conversations myself with my bosses when I said, to be honest, I don't really believe I can cross that threshold of, let's say, 1 million in a year.
Yeah.
I don't think it's possible. But then when I actually sat down and thought about, gosh, how did I get to this million? That's interesting. Okay, if I added 3 or 4 more referral partners, this could actually become 1.5 or even 2 millions. So
Wow.
that's the thing. Imposter syndrome is hugely debilitating. And sadly, too many women suffer from it because they give in to the syndrome.
Mm.
But once they understand, gosh, I have accomplished so much in my life. What if it actually comes down to not knowing myself enough? And especially women are great in going into stillness. Great.
Yeah.
And men have to learn it.
Yeah.
So you see,
Wow.
I deliberately call myself steward of stillness, and especially stillness and legacy, because it is really one of my gifts that when people meet me, and I can tell you, it can happen in a restaurant, it can happen in a shopping center, it can happen on a walk. When people get together with me, they experience that stillness immediately. It reminds them of something that has been dormant in them.
Wow.
And for the first time, they actually sense that there is more to their life,
Wow.
that it isn't it, there is more.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
basically, we are limitless. It
Wow.
is literally our beliefs, our limiting beliefs that hold us back from anything we could reach. Because there's this saying, if you can dream it, you can do it. I believe it's true.
Yeah.
I believe it's true. But you
Yeah.
have to believe it, you know?
Yeah.
Wishful thinking, manifestations, yeah, they're beautiful. But if you don't do the work, no, it won't work.
Well, we we talk about it a lot, actually, a lot on the podcast because I'm convinced, just like you just said beautifully, so many leaders don't experience a growth in their communication or their leadership because they've already told themselves it can't happen. I meet leaders all the time who say, I can never remember people's names. Okay, well, you've just already put one foot in the grave of never remembering names. So instead of already proclaiming, I can't remember names, say, I'm going to work on remembering names. Just those shifts, it's just amazing what will happen. But we kind of go to that. Go back for a second. So, stillness is so incredibly important. Leaders are rushing. I was just leading a training. A manager comes up to me and says, I go from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting, and then emails from corporate and, all of this. And I said, are you able to just put 5 minutes on your calendar between each meeting to just breathe? What you talked about. And she looked at me like I just gave her the best answer in the world. She already knew the answer. We've all been there. Uh, are there some stillness practices that, are the quote unquote the best of the best? Are they different for everyone? Maybe walk us through a couple of those.
I believe the most important thing is to understand that stillness is the key.
Mm.
I believe that's the first and foremost thing. The second one is I'm adding something that might be surprising to you. Um, if we hand people methodologies like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, just book him in, just book him in, just book him in. So stay with me for a moment. Picture yourself on a hamster wheel as a hamster. So I worked with millionaires and I worked with billionaires. And the higher up in the echelon they are, the more glamorous their hamster wheels are. But they
Wow.
stay and remain hamsters. So if I come in with time savers, with, like book a calendar here for 5 minutes, it's basically telling a hamster to hold for a moment. And then hopefully with repetition and repetition and repetition and repetition, it becomes an automatic.
Mm.
My approach with stillness is different. My approach with stillness is this: to understand that the world has told you that you are a hamster, that you have become a human doing, that you have become a human behaving, that you have become a human achieving. But the one thing you have absolutely forgotten is that you are a human being.
Wow.
And that's where stillness comes into play. So you see, what I'm doing is I am shocking a system. That's why I have this short circuit urina paralysis in one of my major approaches. Because when someone hears, gosh, this guy is right, he's actually frank and he is almost like arrogant, telling me I'm a hamster in a hamster wheel, but he's right. He's right. Like, I have a friend, Jason, he tells me I have 10 freaking hamster wheels parallel to each other every single moment. 10 clients. And he's running from one hamster wheel to the other non-stop. And I'm sure your viewers and listeners can very much relate to that. So I said to him, the only reason why you can do it is because you're a hamster. And he said,
Wow.
you're right. So I tell you what happens if somebody goes into stillness. I tempt someone to take their little hamster foot and put it on the ground. And guess what happens? Immediately, they grow into their full size as human beings. And maybe for the first time in their lives, they experience what it means to be a human being.
Mm.
So the being is the key.
Yes.
Doing and giving a little hold, it's almost like I give you a little injection of adrenaline, and then you can run again, run again, run again, run again. But we are not meant to be hamsters, God's sake. We are not. And I know I am not, a, like the economy is not a huge friend and fan of me at the moment, because I am literally telling their best people, you know what? Hold, just stop for a moment. Why do you think burnout is such
Yeah.
a huge thing and
Yeah.
prevalent in management circles? These little hamsters are not meant to run as they run. No chance.
Yep.
Like, when I speak with my friends, I say, look, sorry, honestly, I wish I could give you a different diagnosis, but the question is not if you run into a burnout. The question is when.
Wow.
It's when. And believe me, I'm not proud to say, but I had 3 burnouts in my life. It took 3 burnouts for me to understand that stillness is the key. Stillness.
Wow. Wow. This has been so incredibly powerful. I know this is going to resonate and be transformative for so many of our listeners. Before we fully move on with the episode, we're building this online library for leaders, get new ideas, some inspiration, and so much of leading is about speaking, and some of us find ourselves in front of people. Is there a speaker that you just every time you hear them, they just resonate so well? You love to tell other people about them. Who would that voice in your life be?
There's only one person, and sadly, he died. It's the late Jim Rohn.
Ah,
Yeah, there's literally no one else like Jim Rohn.
powerful. Yeah.
And I believe he literally was one of the influences for me to keep going when I was
Wow.
at the lowest. Yeah,
Wow.
because he's so damn straightforward.
Yep.
He doesn't mince his words. He doesn't
Yep.
sugarcoat it. He just calls you out.
Yep.
Like it literally felt for hours. I was sitting on my swing chair, and I just let him preach to me. And I just knew this is my style because I'm a business consultant. I know how to sugarcoat the bullshit.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's when I decided, no, that's the only way how to get through to people, by actually cutting through the BS.
Wow. I love
A
that.
name is spade a spade.
Yep. Absolutely. Not all leaders are podcast listeners. So if you are, is there a guilty pleasure, true crime, gardening, or a development podcast that you just keep going back to and highly recommend?
I'll give it some thought. I don't listen too much to podcasts. It's so difficult. I have been on so many great podcasts, but in terms of listening to podcasts, what I could do is I could send you after a call, um, maybe one or two of my
That'd be great.
favorite podcasts.
I love that.
The,
Yeah. Think about
the
it.
one the one I do listen to, I just forgot his name. He's so famous. He is, yeah. Let me Bartel, I believe is his name. Bartel, something like that.
Okay. Okay. That'd
Yeah,
be great.
yeah.
And then lastly, is there a book that, boy, if there's only one book leaders have to make sure that they read, what's that book for you?
What's interesting? If somebody does the work, then it's the book Think and Grow Rich,
Mm,
because it's not about being rich in terms of money. It's about rich in wealth. And most actually already stumble with the title because they do not think.
yes.
They regurgitate what they heard from others.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Well, where can we send our listeners to find out more about what you do, connect with you, all that kind of stuff online?
So at the moment, it's absolutely easiest to connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Just go on Markus Neukom, and then you'll see my face. Because right now I am overdoing the entire social media, which will be absolutely limited to stillness and stillness councils. So if somebody goes on markusnewcomb.com, I just say already it will be a blank page, because I literally put aside business consultant and executive coaching. So it's a blank thing.
I love it. This was profound. Wildly profound. And I know that so many of our listeners, I sat here taking 2 pages of notes, and I needed this. So I so appreciate it. I cannot wait to share this with our listeners. Thank you for how generous and just being able to share your wisdom. And so thank you for being on the podcast.
Right. Thank you for having me, Jason.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Speak with People podcast. It means the world to us when you share this episode. Thanks for liking, subscribing, or following the podcast. That really does help the podcast get into more ears and into more leaders listening. Also, don't forget, we have 2 exciting resources for you. The first is go to Facebook and join the Speakers Group. This is a community designed for leaders who want to grow their communication skills. Also, go to speakwithpeople.com/skills library to access the Communication Skills Library. It is an online resource chock filled with resources that will inspire you and transform you and grow your communication skills. Thanks again for being a part of the listening community. We cannot wait for the next episode.